Hey guys, today we have Lauren. She's from Australia and now she's cycling from London to Australia on her bike. So, how did you get this idea?
It wasn't straightforward, definitely. I had a progressive interest in cycling. So when I lived in Australia, I was interested in cycling just as a nice, cheap way of travelling and saving carbon emissions, that kind of thing. And then I moved to London and I got more interested in cycling, and a couple of years ago I did a backpacking trip in the Balkans.
Okay.
And I met an English guy, a young English guy who had cycled from the UK to Albania. And I was just so amazed at how he was a really just normal guy. He wasn't some ultra athlete or anything like that. And so I went back to England and this idea just started ticking around my head. I had a 2-year working visa for the UK.
Okay.
And
So you're basically working in Australia and then you moved to UK only for 2 years.
Yeah, only for 2 years.
And now it's done.
Yeah, so I always knew that I would leave after 2 years, and I had planned to do a bit of backpacking. So with this flexible time frame, maybe 12 months backpack around South America on my way back to Australia, something like that.
Okay.
But then I started feeling like I've done a fair bit of travel, and I felt like I needed something more challenging.
Okay.
And yeah, the bicycle travel just started to grab my interest, and but it took a long time to kind of build up the motivation and sort of the braveness, I guess, to do this.
Okay.
And eventually I just decided it was going to be now or never kind of thing. So yeah, I started planning a route and thinking about what gear I might need, and yeah.
So which steps did you take for preparation?
So I decided which way I wanted to go. I didn't fully commit to cycling all the way to Australia initially. So I've read about another sort of adventurer who his theory is you need to kind of break it down into smaller parts, otherwise the whole thing is too scary.
Okay.
So if I said I'm cycling to Australia, having no cycling or cycle touring experience, it terrified me. But I told myself I'm going to cycle to Istanbul, and when I get to Istanbul I'll rethink it all and think if I want to keep going or not, because cycling through Europe from London was relatively easy. There's a lot of cycle paths, it's very safe. You get to Eastern Europe, it gets a bit more adventurous, but it's still quite reasonable.
Okay.
And before I even got to Istanbul, I knew I wanted to keep going. So yeah.
And how many countries have you been to till now? Now we are in Georgia.
Yeah.
So how many countries from London to Georgia?
Yeah. So 12 countries now. So a little bit of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, and now
Georgia.
I think I missed one.
And when are you going after?
And so I'll leave Georgia once it warms up a bit. So Georgia is my sort of winter hibernation.
Okay.
Because I don't have winter camping gear, so it's difficult to camp. Yeah.
So you have to settle in Georgia for winter.
Yeah, so I'll stay here for a few months, which is nice to have a bit of a break from moving constantly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll head east after this, so I'll head into Azerbaijan, and then the plan is to cross the Caspian and keep going through Central Asia.
Central Asia.
Yeah.
All countries there, or there's main ones?
So I particularly want to see like the main UNESCO sites in Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And also I'd like to cycle the Pamir Highway as well, which is quite popular. So yeah, that's the plan at the moment.
Okay, and what will be the final destination before Australia?
Before Australia, so it's quite hard to plan that far ahead. I know roughly where I think I want to go. I'd like to try and get a ferry across to Indonesia from Malaysia or Singapore, and then hopefully my flight would be from Bali to Darwin or something like that. So I'd like to try and take the least amount of flights, just as a bit of a challenge.
Okay, and after you come back to Australia, you have some other cycling plans, or you will just settle and find your job? And
No, I mean I definitely will find a job because I'll need money again. But no, I definitely have other cycling plans, and I'm definitely very passionate about cycling as a mode of transport, because it's quite surprising to people the distances that I cycle each day, and for very little effort, really.
Yeah.
Like I've had no injury problems along the way. I've had no issues with knees or anything like that. And yet I'm cycling with a serious amount of weight up really big mountains, and so I've coped quite well.
And how many kilometers have you been through till now?
It does vary. So to Georgia, I've done a total of 7,300.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit over 7,300.
And roughly the whole trip will be how many kilometers?
I don't know. It depends which way I go and that kind of thing. I mean, it could be between 20 or 30,000 kilometers all the way to Cairns in Northern Australia. So.
Okay, and which knowledge you think you got now through your trip and your
Yeah.
first cycling trip?
I think it's just the biggest thing is just staying calm in most situations is like really, really good. Don't worry about things. Take things as they come. Problems will always arise with the bicycle travel, whether it's mechanical issues or just there's always some kind of challenge you need to sort of overcome. I have a stove which takes an alcohol fuel, and so every country you get to, you have to find what it's called in that country and where it's sold, and this can be difficult with language barriers. And then, you know, other things happen, you get sick and you can't cycle, where do you stay?
Okay, and where do you stay overnight?
So I mix it up between camping, hostels or cheap accommodation, and hosted things like couch surfing, or there's a cycling version of couch surfing called warm showers, which is fantastic.
Okay.
So they're fantastic because you stay with local people and it's very relaxed. I cycle on my own, so I like staying with people because camping on my own can get a bit lonely. So, you know, when I'm in cities, it's nice to stay with locals.
Okay.
So.
And camping during traveling, is it dangerous?
I guess it can be. I looked into this a lot when I started the trip because I was a bit worried about camping on my own, especially in Western Europe where it's actually illegal to wild camp.
Okay.
But a lot of people do it. You've just got to find a way. I mean, there's some principles. I think everyone has a different tactic, but I try to get out of big cities, so get away from established sort of settlement. If you can hear barking dogs, you get further away.
Mm-hmm.
And just try to be somewhere discreet.
So this is your camping tips.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds terrible, but I think the biggest, there's no rules to this.
Okay.
It's always very much how you feel.
Okay.
If the place doesn't feel right, regardless of it ticking all the boxes, don't camp there.
Yeah.
Go with your gut instinct. Yeah.
Cool. And one point also concerning preparation, you told me is that you had to attend some cycling courses, maintenance courses.
I mean, I didn't have to, but I felt a bit more comfortable. So I didn't have a lot of bicycle maintenance knowledge. I knew how to change a tyre, but very badly. So I did a few courses in London. There's a couple of bike shops there that offer training, so they're helping you to build your knowledge. And that was fantastic. If anything, it just gave me the confidence to know how the bike works and how to just do my own running repairs so that I can get to a bike shop to get it fixed properly.
Yeah, because good preparation is important, because some people sometimes they have great ideas but they don't prepare well, but good preparation really saves you a lot.
But the thing with bicycle travel is you don't want to over prepare as well.
Okay.
The sort of the beauty of it is the flexibility of it, the fact that you can just pack the bike and go and change your plans as needed. If you over prepare and say like I'm going to be in this country on this, you're losing all of what it's about. At the same time, obviously you're limited with visas, and sometimes you have to be out of a country by a certain time, so you have to make certain milestones and that kind of thing. But
And what are the basic equipment for cycling while going through this long trip?
A bicycle is a good start.
Okay, sure.
It's hard without a bicycle. But apart from that, I mean, once you have a bicycle, a lot of like bicycle tourists don't carry backpacks typically. So you want to mount everything on the bicycle. So at a bare minimum, you need a back rack so that you can, you know, put panniers or whatever you want on there. I've definitely seen people touring with all sorts of setups. Some people make their own panniers out of buckets and things. just whatever works, but consider your terrain as well. So like if you're going on fairly rough terrain, you need to make sure everything fits really well.
Okay.
When I started traveling, my panniers would rattle a bit on like rougher roads, and this started to become a problem because they were going to break basically. So I had to kind of tighten everything up, and I put some tape around the bars of the racks so
Okay.
that they wouldn't rub and sort of ruin the bars or things like that. So yeah, it's
And did you have any serious problem with your bike?
nothing
Till
really. No, I've had a couple of. Well, I mean, I've had a couple of flat tires, but I changed them and fixed them. I've had a couple of issues with my brakes, just sort of coming out of alignment, but yeah, nothing too major. You can really keep going. I mean, as long as the wheels keep turning, it's pretty fine. Yeah, so
And
very lucky.
like, so you recommend this cycling long trips for people?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you can do it any way you want.
Because for some people it's kind of hectic. They will be like for
yeah.
a lot of months away from family.
Well, so there's long trips and short trips. The long trips, obviously, you're away. There's a lot more challenges potentially. If you're on your own, then obviously you've got that sort of that solo element
Okay.
to it. But I mean, it doesn't have to be a struggle. You can make it a short trip, and you can. Yeah, if you were cycling in Europe somewhere, you can stay in a hotel every night. Like, it doesn't have to be difficult. And if you're not camping, you don't have to carry as much. So the weight of what you're cycling with is much lighter. Your bicycle's going to go much further. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a struggle. It's just you do it the way you want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, what is the time frame for your trip? Like, how many months roughly?
It's very hard to estimate. My mum wanted some reassurance, so I told her I'd be home in maybe 18 months.
Maybe 18 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it might likely blow out to a bit more, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. And if somebody like have no experience with cycling like you have been before,
Yeah.
and now he want to try this experience, what are the main tips or advices
Yeah.
you're gonna recommend?
I think you'd learn so much just by doing it. So
Okay.
just get a bike, plan a route. If you're a bit nervous, find somewhere that's really straightforward. If you're nervous on busy roads, find somewhere with bicycle paths. Just do it and slowly build up your confidence. So for me, cycling through Europe was the confidence builder, because a lot of the Netherlands and Germany have fantastic bike paths.
Yeah.
So I built up the confidence with my bike and my setup and the system and everything
Okay.
on those easy stretches. And then when I started to get to more difficult and challenging areas, I knew what my bike was capable of, and I knew what I could do as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
And like now, what about your main field of work? What do you do?
Now,
right
well,
now?
now I am a jobless nomad, but no, but I've always worked in the environmental industry, so always for the government. Yeah, so that's my.
And what can you tell about your travel experience in London? Like, you spent 2 years, so
Yeah.
if somebody's going to England in general, what could you say about your experience?
I had these kind of starry-eyed idea that I would get some contract work and then go traveling for months at a time and then return to London, and it just wasn't that way. I got there, rent is very expensive, so I ended up just settling back into a 9-to-5 job and traveling on my allotted leave,
Yeah.
which was fine. The difference, but for Australians, it's a long way to travel anywhere, basically.
Yeah, for flights.
So yeah, just having the ability to go to Prague for the weekend was an amazing novelty to me.
Okay.
So I definitely enjoyed that, and I travelled as much as I could, both in the UK and through Europe. So
Okay.
yeah.
And there are some stuff you didn't like about England?
But, yeah, I mean, I loved London. So I lived in London, and I loved London. It was just this hive of activity. It was so exciting. But it's a very busy city. It's difficult to be somewhere and not have it be crowded, and I like to escape the crowds as much as possible as well. So yeah,
Yeah, and you
it's
told
nice
me.
to get away from that.
Yeah. And you also told me that in Australia it wasn't a big hobby for you, this cycling, but when you moved to London it was actually, when you told me, it was one of benefits that you just started cycling in London just to save the transportation's money.
Yeah.
So it's really good because traveling, even small tips in traveling, it helps you to make something bigger, and that's why you're here now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew, so when I travel, I would often like hire a bike to go sightseeing, something like that. So I knew that I liked traveling by bicycle.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just seemed like a good way of getting myself out of my comfort zone. Like, traveling by bicycle is very different to just backpacking.
Okay.
You go through places that other people don't go through.
Okay.
So you're approached in a different way, and it's just not the same as normal travel. It's definitely different.
Yeah. So it's a great knowledge.
Yeah.
So everybody has to go and travel
Yeah.
to get more knowledge.
Definitely.
Yeah, like Lauren is doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So this was our video today with Lauren. So guys, keep traveling and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.